Welcome back as we're moving right along on a very busy news day. Just a lot happening out there. And because it is Wednesday, we've got our newer contributor. Actually, he's starting to become a veteran. And it's Ken Bombase with a wide and varied background in military, criminal intel. You name it, Ken has done it. Ken Bombase, my friend, how are you?
Great, Tom. Doing well. Thanks for having me on.
You know, so much is at stake. We're 13 days away. Obviously, we're watching the gubernatorial. Yesterday was a big day. You had both candidates, Long Island's own Lee Zeldin, up against the acting governor, lieutenant governor, or governor that was lieutenant governor, who rose to office as a result of the scandal. So this is her first election, as it would be with Lee Zeldin, too. So no one's running for re-election here. So we'll, again, we'll say that. But at the same time, I'm concerned. I didn't like what I heard. I mean, Kathy Hochul, her attack against Lee was Donald Trump, climate denier, and also that he voted not to accept electoral votes from two states back there in during the January 6th debacle that took place. And that's the issue that's supposed to guide people to her. And yet at the same time, she's a crime denier. She did not acknowledge the subway crime that's taking place. You and I both know exactly the demographics and the analytics of the crime itself. And she said it's all about the illegal guns. And I'm talking about the beatdowns and the random attacks and the knife attacks and the pushing people off by individuals that are obviously should have been in jail, but under the new lax laws are committing crimes over and over again to go back into the subways again. And you don't have to be a brain surgeon to figure this out. But she's telling the people in the state of New York that this is how she wants to deal with the crime problem. And of course, the really good answer is to stop credit cards to being used to purchase handguns or rifles. I mean, she's out of her mind. I don't know. I've said enough. Ken, what do you think?
So Tom, the short answer is I agree with everything you just said. She made a statement during that debate where she said that anyone who commits a crime under our laws, the bail laws are working. They have consequences. And she says, I don't know why this is so important to you, referring to the crimes in New York City. I have to say, I was surprised she said that. It's crazy. What do you mean, why is it so important to Lee Zeldin? First of all, he has personally been the victim of two serious crimes just during the campaign. One at a speech he was giving where someone had an edge weapon, and another one recently, literally a shooting on his property where he lives with his daughters there doing their homework. I mean, that's why it's important to him and every other New Yorker. So for her to say that, I think it's a mistake. I think, in my opinion, she lost the debate because she lost it on facts. Facts matter. And she's trying to, she's, like you say, a crime denier. And I'm surprised she went that route. Rather, I know that Democrats have been kind of backpedaling and saying, well, now we're focusing on crime like the last 2 weeks before the election. But I was surprised that she said what she said and kind of made it like there wasn't really an issue. And to your point with the guns, it's like the Democrats are a one-trick pony when it comes to crime. It's gun laws. It's all about gun laws. Recently, Mayor Adams brought this up and said that it's guns are the contributor to the subway crimes, even though they're a small fraction of the homicides that are being committed in the subways. It's like doesn't even make sense. But that's what they always fall back. It's the default is gun laws. I worked in a legal firearms team. I know that we never dealt with a legal firearm. We never dealt with. If you look at the crimes in Chicago, all the shootings, the massive shootings, we see the numbers every weekend. Those are all illegal firearms, and they have very strict gun laws there. That is not the answer. I'm not opposed to some common sense firearms restrictions. If someone wants to talk about assault rifles, even then, what's really going to have an impact? Just banning them overall, I'm not sure is the answer. But if people have some common sense restrictions, I'm always up to listening to that. But it's always one thing they say. Let's restrict firearms. The crime will go away. Even when it's not firearm crimes. It doesn't even make sense, the argument, Tom.
But the numbers, again, and certainly you and I are on the same page with this, are indicating senseless type crimes, too. Because I question that. There was that gang of teenage girls. They dressed up, I think, in pink or whatever they did, and they were attacking other teenagers just by beating them up. Because I think in their minds, some people will not agree with this, but I believe in their minds, or the individual that we watched this week run across the platform and push somebody off onto the railroad tracks. That's a senseless crime. There's no gain there. You're not getting a watch. You're not getting cash, a wallet, credit cards. You're not stealing from any of these individuals. It's just the fact that you have time on your hands because you probably were released. You can't tell me any of those people committing any of those senseless crimes that are taking place right now have not been involved in the system. We know damn well they have been. It's just that the system under Kathy Hochul and under a far left progressive Democratic majority does not believe in incarceration. And they have said that. She even, I think, alluded to the whole idea of the phrase mass incarceration. And they see that as a dirty word. I see that as a way in which we could reduce crime. Because if somebody is sitting in a 6x9, they are not pushing you off the subway platform, or they're not attacking you. Or if you go to the aid of a female police officer that's struggling with somebody, that you're not going to get your throat slit, which happened a couple weeks ago to that hardworking guy who was a member of the of the Iron Workers Union. This was a hardworking guy who was in Brooklyn. And again, those incidences are happening because we're not putting those people in jail when they all have criminal records. They don't see it. She talks about not using credit cards to stop credit card companies from a purchase of a firearm. I mean, what is wrong here? What am I missing? What are the people in the state of New York missing, Ken?
Tom, I don't think the people of the state of New York are missing anything. I think these politicians are the ones who are missing it. And like you said, these are crimes simply for the sake of committing a crime. And that's scary. Some of these videos are hard to watch. You see this guy, actually, it's like he's in the starting blocks and he gets a running start to knock this guy onto the tracks. I mean, these people, one big problem we're facing is people who committed crimes used to go to jail. Now, someone who commits, the vast majority of people committing crimes do not go to jail under these policies. So someone that would have committed one crime is now committing 10 or 15 or 20 crimes. It's simple math. I think anyone could see this from the outside. It's not a complicated problem. We didn't have this problem. New York was one of the safest large cities in the country, and now it's not. And we know why it's not. And it's not just New York. Look at Philly. The DA, Larry Krasner down there. He's under his watch since 2017, homicides have gone up 78%. I mean, there's a problem with your policies when you have a massive increase in crime like that, serious crime like that. This isn't a mystery. Everyone knows what's happening here. These are activist DAs. Their policies are completely irresponsible. And what's amazing to me, these policies, Tom, they failed immediately. Bail reform failed immediately within weeks. Rather than cut your losses and move on, they've doubled down, sticking to their guns, and they're just not letting go of it, acting like there isn't a problem. And I think they're going to fail because of it.
I believe 13 days from now, and I'm going to say this to the folks out there, when you go to vote or you start on Saturday, many people are calling in and telling me they're starting to vote Saturday because they can't wait. They got to get that vote out. It's going to make them feel better. You are actually, folks listening, you are actually going to be voting for these policies, yes or no, up or down. And that's essentially what's in the hands of the voter in the state of New York, is that if you approve of the policies, then of course you'll go along with Kathy Hochul. If you don't, and she's already said that she's not going to change it, nor are many of the Democratic leadership in the Assembly or in the State Senate, then the vote has to be cast in the way in which you want to reject what they're saying in terms of the progressive movement about crime and the whole idea about the overcrowding and the overcrowding of our prison system and so on. I mean, again, it doesn't make any sense. I've always said we should build more jails because this way they're not hurting people, but yet they see this as a sin of all time, and that's what they had this big celebration when she signed the parole reform last September. They had this huge party over it, and they thought it was the greatest thing in the world. And it's the whole idea is that you can now violate your parole after serving 15 years, and we're not going to put you back in jail. Hallelujah, folks. So what is that person going to do? In fact, that was the one that beat up that woman in where was that? Queens, I think. She was in the subway and beat her up, and now she may lose her eye. That was a perfect example. He took advantage of the March 1st law. He had killed, I think you said it on the show last week, he killed his grandmother, and he did 15 years for that, and he gets out, and he should have been remanded back on 2 different occasions, and finally beats the woman up, and now she's going to lose her eye. And that's it. But they don't sympathize with that too. We have issues in this state. We're going to see. You have any inkling, do you think, how the people in the state are voting? Are they going to vote for the same old, same old? Because if they do, I don't know what I'm going to say on the show anymore. I don't know what to say. On November 9th,
Right.
if everybody is returned to office who did all of this, what am I supposed to tell the people out there? Or what are we supposed to discuss? I mean, it's just amazing. What do you think?
I'll tell you, Tom, it's scary. I've spoken to so many people, very moderate people, who say that, this is it in New York. If Lee Zeldin weren't to become governor and we had a drastic change in policies, that they're going to move. They're like, that's it. There's no more staying here anymore. Things are going downhill so fast. People are flooding other states, leaving New York for good reason. It's not by mistake. So what I'd say is New York's a tough nut to crack for a Republican governor, any statewide office, I'd say. But at a minimum, you're going to see a very close election, much closer than it has been in the past because of these things. And quite frankly, I think you look at the policies that people are focused on right now, which is crime in the economy, and it's not abortion. That's not at the top of the list. And you look at what people really are worried about right now and their wallets. I think that Lee Zeldin has a good chance, as good a chance as any Republican has had in recent time and in recent history in New York State. I think he has a good chance because when things get to such a level, New York City is essentially like the movie Escape from New York right now. It's a free-for-all. And I think when things get so bad to a certain level that people want to change, no matter what. We see that. We've seen that time and time again, even in New York City. You've seen that. And I think he may have a really good chance because they're doubling down on these failed policies on the left. And Lee Zeldin has the message that they want to hear right now, which is crime and the economy. Let's see. First of all, in New York State, crime. Let's make our families safe. Then we'll start to address the other issues. But first things first.
Yeah. And I thought his knowledge and his command of the issues was very, very good on all aspects because he was very strong. He had the answers, he had the facts, and so on. And I think people were looking for that. They were looking for that authority. And again, there are people that are going to support Kathy Hochul, and I think it's those people that are going to buy this nonsense of what she's saying, that the crime isn't so bad. And she's actually following the same thing that Eric Adams is doing. I guess it really belies the imagination. Let me get to another school shooting that we had. It's not getting, the tragedy of this whole thing is that whenever there's a school shooting, it's not going to receive the publicity unless a lot of people die, and that is so sad. Of what's taking place. The one in St. Louis involved the death of a 15-year-old student and a 61-year-old teacher. So there were 2 fatalities, a number of injuries, and it's out there in the news, but it's not playing up to the way it was. But Ken, it goes back to the same profile. A young man between 18 and 21 in the possession of a semi-automatic rifle. He had 600 rounds of ammunition. He telegraphed his attack on the social media by saying he has no friends, he has no girlfriend, he has no family, nobody loves him and anything like that. So he's going to go out and do this. And I think there's got to be something that we can do to profile that because they're inspiring each other. They're all the same. The Uvalde shooter, this individual, the one up in Connecticut, the same thing. The Parkland, Nicholas Cruz, they all have that same MO. Certainly they're able to possess these weapons, and then maybe we could focus in on that at some point in our country. But at the same time, it goes down to the same thing, and it's tragic. Yes, only 2 people died, except if you're the family members of those 2 wonderful human beings. This is a tragedy, and I still think whatever we can do, we have to get a handle on this. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with what you just said, and the challenge, I think, is not going to be simply in gun laws. Again, if there's some common sense restrictions that would, 18-year-olds buying assault style rifles, I'm probably okay with that. It's not the answer to this problem. Like you just said, these things are being telegraphed. We have over 400 million guns in this country. If someone's that unstable, they're going to find a weapon to do it, and that's the problem. Now, what has to be focused on is what you just said, the telegraphing. There's always signs of these people and what their intentions might be. Now, the problem is there's so many people that could show potential signs of that. You don't know which ones are real, which ones are actually potentially dangerous, right? So we need to fix the system of identifying them and then intervention. And that's not an easy thing. Even if you go to a house because someone made a threatening statement and you involuntarily commit them, you don't get to keep them there forever. It's not like we put them in jail and throw away the key. It doesn't work that way. They get evaluated, usually in 24, 48 hours. And then if they determine they're not a threat to somebody, which oftentimes that's what happens, they send them home. They can't keep them forever. We don't have that infrastructure in place and also the laws to do that to someone. So that's the broken piece, is identifying these people and then also the intervention before one of these things happens. That's really it. And of course, on the other side is being prepared for these. We saw Uvalde was a complete disaster. And you're seeing the repercussions of that now. And then you saw in St. Louis, that was a textbook response. And I hate to say that because people lost their lives, but it could have been so much worse, Tom. It could have been much worse.
Well, I think, Ken, I think we are learning. The 911 call from the St. Louis High School came in at 9:11. That's when the call went through, and you know how the system works. 9:15, 4 minutes later, Ken, first officers arrived, did not ask any questions whatsoever. They went in to a relatively large building. You know what it's like to clear a building, okay? A school building with a lot of classrooms and closets and auditoriums and you name it, offices and so on. And I'll tell you, St. Louis PD, God bless them. They were able to get in through that search, the first responding officers, not SWAT, not anything like that, sector cops. That's who did it. And by 9:23, the subject was shot dead. And that shows how the training works. I mean, that's about as quick as can be. I want to add one thing. I think we're learning. By the way, the doors were locked. So he was able to, I think, shoot his way in or how he got in. So that school knew about Uvalde, of course. And they had a number of security guards on duty also, in addition to making sure the doors were locked. So the fact that the death toll was 2, more than enough, but that's 2 instead of 15 or 20, was because that we're getting better at this. Tragically said, we are getting better at this. I just want to add one thing. After watching that, I believe this, and I want to see what you think. I think we should have well-trained school security guards. They don't have to be cops. Security guards that are armed in every school. I think we should, because this is getting out of hand. These 18, 19-year-old, 20-year-olds, misfits, mentally deranged individuals are being inspired by each other. And you know as well as I know, Ken, somebody's planning something right now as we speak. And I believe that we should have firearms in the schools by security guards. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. And, at one point in my career, I had put up a model for consideration of, exactly that, armed. And obviously this was in Suffolk County. And I like the idea actually of the off-duty law enforcement or retired law enforcement, because oftentimes they live in that community with those schools and it's much more personal to them. And you know as well as I do, you cannot pick a community in Suffolk County without police living there, many police living there. We have the largest police department in the world. Many of them live in Suffolk County. We have the Suffolk County. We have the Park Police. We have Nassau County State Police. There's police in all these communities, many of them retired, that would love to work those positions and would take it personal because that's their school district and that's where their family went. And I thought that was a good idea. I agree. They should be receiving training, and they're on site. Even as fast as St. Louis responded, if you're on site, it's even better. And you could save those 2 lives potentially, right? And I think one thing I would finish this with, Tom, is that I think this is what people need to watch. Those officers and officers across this country they have to make their decision when they take these careers that worst comes to worst, like they did in St. Louis. I am running into a building with a person who's got an assault rifle, 600 rounds by myself, and I'm going to try and stop them. And when people are putting down the police so much, there's such a negative police sentiment in this country. It's important that they pay attention to this. What just happened there. And they need to get the benefit of the doubt all the time because of what they're doing and the sacrifice they might have to make.
Amen to that. Believe it or not, we're out of time. Once again, Ken Bombay's here every Wednesday. We'll talk to Ken again next week. Ken, thank you very much.